Good evening and welcome to another edition of Your Blocking the TV.
Welcome back to another episode of You're Blocking the TV. Josh Creekmore here with Alex Pacheco. And Alex, I think we need to stop calling it we've used the term podcast a lot. We haven't become a podcast yet. We're a YouTube show at this point, which is fine. That said, there is a lot going on in the sports world right now. We are a day away from the MLB trade deadline. I should say MLB non-waiver trade deadline, which is the big one. It's the one that everybody cares the most about. And there's a lot going on in around that. Teams that had been perceived as buyers that are now going to be sellers. Teams that just are going through it. And there's so many teams that are in contention. We've talked about this before. It is hard to make the decision on, should we stay pat? Should we stand pat? Should we sell the farm and build for the future? Or do we really believe that we're a few pieces away from being a contender this year?
Well, the biggest thing since we last talked has been the flipping of teams that are leading their respective leagues. Toronto Blue Jays going on. I mean, I know they've lost 4 straight, but really starting to pull away in the AL East. Tigers coming back down to earth slightly. Really kind of maintaining where they're at, winning 3, but 4 and 6 in their last 10. Milwaukee Brewers 7 and 3, really making a stake of being that top team in the NL. And like you said, the top teams are coming back down to earth, and now there's this juggling of the arms race of what is that one piece that's going to put them over the top? Do we want to go all in to just be eliminated in the first round? What are these teams going to do? It is an exciting next 24 hours for sure.
And, there's a lot of conversation about, people being suspended. So, my Cleveland Guardians have had 2 pitchers now suspended. And the one that really hurts, and this is what has flipped Cleveland from being like, well, yeah, I mean, we're right around 500. We're in the hunt for the wild card. Let's, maybe see if we can bring in a couple pieces affordably to try to get us over the hump. To now we're talking about selling one of our big stars in Stephen Kwan. And that's just because you lose Emmanuel Clase to a gambling scandal. And he's your closer. He's been the most dominant closer in Major League Baseball for the last couple seasons. And I thought there was a chance that we might try to move him and get a huge haul because he's a pretty affordable player. And everybody at the deadline, I mean, there's plenty of suitors for a solid closing pitcher. That's no secret. And now he's just out of the fold. And probably, I mean, when you go down for stuff like this, and I know that at the administrative level in the league, they're not suspending guys until they have a pretty good idea that they're guilty. It's under investigation, but I think they know already what's going on.
Me and my wife have watched enough 48 hours Dateline to know they're bringing them in to say, here's your plea deal. Here's what we have. Are you going to bring down the whole house, or do we just need to make an example out of you?
Right.
Is the feeling that is flocking.
It's a shame. It's disappointing, because now, it's just a black mark on the game in general. But it begs the question, and we've seen some tension and some stress around this regarding the collective bargaining agreement, which is expiring, I believe, in 2027. And just the fact that there's no salary cap in baseball. That is the elephant in the room. And you wonder how long that's going to go and what kind of tension we're going to see. And, do we have a season coming up with no baseball in maybe 2027?
And
because
unfortunately, that's happened before, right? It's not out of the question for a season to be canceled. I feel like MLB has that most recognition of work stoppage, World Series canceled. The MLBPA is not going to to back down to these owners. Bryce Harper certainly isn't going to back down. He'll get in your face and in the middle of everyone inside of the locker room and make a stand. I think there's a lot of things that are going to change in baseball. When you look at something as minuscule as is the next pitch going to be a ball or a strike, typically, 50-50 chance of getting that right. Foul tip being a strike, or how these games makers are making the odds. But there's going to be a lot more that goes into the collective bargaining agreement in terms of you have people wearing DraftKings logos. Stadiums are being covered with different, FanDuel does it for this team. I know, even going to Avalanche games and Nugget games, PointsBet does it for Nuggets games, and FanDuel does it for Avs games. And you're going to tell me that I can, as a fan, not only are you affecting my livelihood, but there's a lot of people that make a lot of money betting on these. And when you have it as minuscule as what's going on in the Guardians locker room right now, we talked about this a couple nights ago when the Guardians playing the Rockies right now. Not only from the fan base, but that team, they just looked off. A lot of things going on in their head. It's tough to step up to the plate and hit 100-mile-per-hour fastball with a clear conscience and a clear mind. Much less going, we lost our closer. What's the direction of our team? Am I thinking about Puerto Vallarta with my team, coming up, or are we going to make a run to try and win a division here? So I know I'm kind of bouncing around, Josh, but there's a lot that goes into that collective bargaining, and there's a lot of tension right now between the owners, and especially, the Rockies owner. They love Mr. Monfort because he has fully been on, having a salary cap even for ownership, signing managers to teams and having that all in place so that these, they continue to turn out money, which unfortunately we all love the game of baseball. We all love other sports that we play, but it is a business. And there's going to be some big business decisions to be made in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I still just wonder, if we will actually see some kind of salary cap in baseball or not, or if that's just kind of a pipe dream. And I mean, if you're the Dodgers, the Yankees, some of the richer teams, you don't necessarily care, right? Because you're able to make your franchise competitive year in, year out by using everybody else as your farm system effectively, right? Stephen Kwan, for example. And to me, this is what also makes baseball so much more interesting than other sports. Because when you get to the trade deadline, you've got GMs that are thinking, okay, well, right now, Stephen Kwan, for example, 2 more years of team control, a pretty manageable salary, under $5 million a year. He could bat lead off for just about everybody. He's probably the best defensive left fielder in the game. Who wouldn't want that guy? And we know he does not want to sign a long-term deal in Cleveland. So he wants to be back on the West Coast where he's from. Right now, your leverage with him is bigger than it'll ever be. The guy's never not won a Gold Glove. He might not win one this year, but I mean, this is his 4th season. He's won 3 Gold Gloves in left field in the American League. You've got to figure out what kind of haul you can get for a guy like that right now, knowing that in 2 years he's gone. No matter what you do, he's just gone. And next year, if you still have him next year, certainly you're going to be having this same conversation, but you have even less leverage. There's less value to moving him at that point, because whoever's taking him knows that they have a shorter clock before they're going to have to pay him more, before they're going to have to try to sign him long term. So what somebody might be willing to give up for him today, and it sounds like basically like shopping him to the Dodgers and the Padres and a couple other franchises right now. But I think the Dodgers and the Padres are the 2 big ones where he would like to go. They want to get Dalton Rushing from the Dodgers, the young catcher. And I don't blame him at all. I love Stephen Kwan. I'm a huge Stephen Kwan fan, huge fan of the way he plays the game. And yet we have not had a catcher who could hit. And Jan Gomes was the last one, I think. And he was often injured. So, yeah, I mean, the expectation for Cleveland baseball has been, you're going to have a defensive catcher who is going to probably be below the Mendoza line most of the time as a hitter. So effectively, if you've got somebody on first base with nobody out, maybe he can bunt every now and then. Maybe he can get a clutch hit, but for the most part, he's just a dead spot in the lineup. And if they're not at any point not playing outstanding defensively, then it's like, what are you doing? And that's the issue with Bo Naylor in Cleveland. He doesn't play fantastic defense. He's still a young catcher, inexperienced, and he has power at the plate, but he hasn't been able to get over that 200 batting average. And so he can't be your everyday catcher. And so these are the things that are going on behind the scenes. And I don't think the Dodgers are going to give up Dalton Rushing, but you've got an opportunity to try to get something for one of your stars, and it breaks the fans' hearts. I mean, if you look at the Cleveland fan base right now, they're like, ugh, if we trade Stephen Kwan, I'm out.
Right.
And yet it's very likely that it's going to happen. In the next 24 hours, he's going to be wearing a different uniform.
I want to ask you your thoughts on the NL, incorporating the designated hitter. Been around for a few years. I used to love that part growing up, being an NL fan, of the double switch and all the strategy going on in 6, 7, 8, and 9 in terms of where's your pitcher at in the lineup, how much further can we get, and felt like you had a lot more dynamic lineups in terms of where you were putting your pitcher. Had several teams really messing around, putting pitcher at the top of their lineup or in the 5 hole, so that they could flip their lineup a little bit easier coming down the stretch in those 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. Curious what you think that has meant for NL teams having more of a complete roster and filling in a position like the catcher spot, whereas the AL kind of dominated that side of the field where they knew that they had to have a good lineup 1 through 9. The NL was like, hey, we can have someone below the Mendoza line, lay down a bunt, move runners over, have a relatively low batting average, and survive. But now the Dodgers, the Padres, the Mets, the Phillies, the who's who of teams, the Brewers, they're having to put together complete lineups, which is taking away from that player pool in the AL. Would be curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was, for whatever reason, I can't tell you exactly why I was opposed to it when they made the change, or when they were leading up to making the change. I liked, and I'm a fan of an AL team, so we've always had the DH going back a while. I just liked, like you said, that the additional strategy that comes into play when you have to manage around a pitcher in your batting lineup. That said, now that the change has been made and we're a couple seasons in, I like the fact that it is consistent. It was weird to have an AL team go into a National League ballpark and now all of a sudden your pitcher has to hit. And especially in the days of where you really weren't playing the other league except during that brief interleague play period. It was just weird. I mean, those guys, they have to work on so many things. They don't have time to work on hitting, which also made it really exciting and interesting when you'd have a pitcher that hasn't hit, let's just say, hasn't hit since he was in college and he was a two-way player. He's 5 years into his major league career. He gets up for the first time since then and he hits a home run. Right. And it's just cool. It was a neat thing to see. And yet I understand completely the justification for why they made that change, because now the health of those pitchers, you can just focus on what they're doing on the pitcher's mound. I mean, it's no secret, even with all of the coddling that they do with these players, especially starting pitchers, keeping them on a pitch count. I mean, talk about Nolan Ryan. Does he know anything about a pitch count? Right? Like, I mean, those guys back in the day, if you were the starter for the game, your goal, your expectation was that you were going to pitch all 9 innings. And if you went into extra innings, you might stay and pitch 10 or 11. Today, it's, 100 pitches, maybe a little bit more, and that's that, whether that comes in the 4th inning or the 7th inning or the 8th inning, whatever. And so they coddle them, and I still think that health is an issue. But it's just a more consistent game. You know what you're getting day in, day out. And when you look at the position players, what we have seen change is there isn't one guy. There's not like an Edgar Martinez in the lineup who basically never plays defense, is always the DH. Teams are using the DH as an opportunity to get a star, a chance to still be in the game, still be in the lineup, but get off his feet a little bit on defense. So it'll be a different DH every night. And that's, to me, that's a new strategy to try to preserve your players and keep them in the lineup. And again, going back to when pitchers didn't worry about pitch count. If you were a star player, you were playing every day, every inning, no matter what. And that was that. This idea of platooning and of, giving guys a break every 5 games or whatever it is, that wasn't a thing. But I still think all in all, now that I've had a chance to adjust, I like it. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to, trade deadline coming up, what big deals or things that you're looking for on the bigger scale in terms of contenders? A lot of people trying to play catch up, and then you look at the standings and they're all jumbled up now. It becomes that race for, hey, we could get, a home playoff series. We could stay home. We could, avoid a lot of these wild card matchups. It doesn't seem like there's as big a list in terms of a big movement or big names, I should say, at the trade deadline. But it seems like there's a vast amount of players that could be moved in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, definitely. And, like I said, there are teams right now, like today, that are a loss away from going from buyer to seller. And I think for Cleveland, again, they lose Emmanuel Clase. They know that they really, in order to get back into contention, they need to sweep teams like the Colorado Rockies. So you lose Clase, and then you lose in a bad way to the Rockies in that game because first you couldn't do anything. You come back, it's emotional. You tie it up, then you take the lead, and it's like, all right, now the Rockies are back to being the Rockies. And then, oh, never mind. You bring on the guy who has been very reliable and we felt like was a future closer. And he was the guy, Cade Smith, was the guy that made you feel good about the idea that maybe they'll move Emmanuel Clase and try to get something else for him that we need. And we'll still be okay with that closer role in the back end of that bullpen. And then Cade Smith comes in, not in his first save opportunity, but his first save opportunity as the closer. And has an awful outing. He has a throwing error. He gives up like 3 runs. And ultimately in that inning, he doesn't finish the inning. They end up giving up like 4 runs. They go down 8-5 after being up. And then obviously they come back in the bottom of the 9th and they can't get it done. And that was just like, you already are reeling from the fact that you've lost your closer and couldn't get anything for him. And then you lose like that. I mean, what a gut punch. And so I think in that locker room, and I did appreciate the way that they came back out yesterday and they took care of business. They did what they're supposed to do against the Rockies, what every franchise should do against the Rockies. No offense.
Well, you're forgetting in the bottom of the 9th inning, guy hits into a double play and I think it was a 2-1 or 3-1 count to erase that lead runner. They ended up still getting the tying run to the plate. But I believe in that outing, I cannot remember I can see his name, can't remember it. But our pitcher, I think he threw 22 balls to the plate, 22 pitches. I think he had 8 strikes. So that was just
it was your young no name fireballer that couldn't he had no control at the plate. And then Carlos Santana, who is probably the most patient hitter, has one of the best eyes in baseball, even at age 39. We've got no outs. You got a runner on first base. He's got a 3-1 count, and he swings at a changeup and, grounds into a double play. And then, yes, they still managed to get the tying run to the plate down 3. But, they had to fight so much harder to even try to contend in that game because of just stupid mistakes. And so going back to the point is that, Cleveland went from I think they were willing to make some deals that were going to improve their team right now and give them. I mean, knowing they did, I don't think anybody believed that they were a World Series team, and so any deal that they were going to make was going to be like, well, maybe this helps us now, but it definitely helps us in the future, and we'll see what it certainly doesn't make us worse, kind of thing. To now, just a couple days later, they are looking to move Stephen Kwan. They might DFA Carlos Santana, who has been, their everyday first baseman and is still playing Gold Glove caliber first base. He's never hit for a high average. He's been an on base percentage guy his whole career, and he hasn't really been a departure from that this year. They might DFA him and bring up, CJ Kafis from AAA, a guy that hasn't had any time at the big league level yet. And they might move Quan and Shane Bieber. And it's just, it hurts, but that's the way it goes. And that's the nature of the business. And in the future, if you're a fan of a team that has to go through any amount of a rebuild, and I feel like we've been fortunate because every time it has seemed like, well, it's time to rebuild, we've found a way to have a season like we had last year where we were a couple games away from the World Series. And you look at that roster, it's basically the same roster. What business did we have being 3 games away from the World Series with the team that has now kind of, reverted to the mean, if you will, and has become who they actually are this year? So we have been lucky, and I try to keep that in perspective. But it still hurts because every year, as you know, anybody that's a fan of any sports team, you go into every season, in the back of your mind, you might know that you don't have a shot, but there's still that chance that maybe this year is going to be that miracle season where we finally get over the hump. And for fans of teams like the Cleveland Guardians, we've had a lot of those years where maybe this is our year and then we've been let down. They haven't won a World Series since 1948. Colorado Rockies have never won one. They haven't been around nearly as long, but that's the thing, is how much heartbreak can a fan base take? And it's just, it is what it is, on to the next season. But a lot of people, if that all goes down, which I think it will, you're going to see a lot of Cleveland fans specifically that kind of give up on this year and lose interest, and attendance will probably drop a little bit. And people are going to, and I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan, luckily, but a lot of people that are like, well, maybe this is the Browns year. And of course it won't be. So people are kind of they're already like, well, when do the Cavs start?
Well, and the Browns just had an Achilles tear in preseason, so they're going through it, and that's why being a Rockies fan and being a fan of other sports, big Avalanche fan, big Nuggets fan, I'm okay with the salary cap. I think that in order to bring that parity, and I know that baseball is that it's kind of that immaculate game, right? Where it's, you don't want to touch it. It is what it is. We're going to leave it alone, and play it in its purest form. I think the only way for me to get excited about a Rockies team or, a Florida Marlins team, which they were able to climb the tower and make things work, and the stars aligned for them to win a World Series, and the Diamondbacks winning a World Series over the Yankees. But for me, the only way I see a path for, not even, I won't say small market teams, but these teams that have just been feeders. And I completely see the Rockies as a feeder team. Like, we are a AAA feeder team to the Yankees, to the Cardinals, where, our players are always up for grabs at the deadline. The only way I can get excited for 2026, 2027 is going, hey, we're going to be really bad the next couple of years, like historically bad, but then we're going to get picks. Those picks are going to turn into players. We're being a salary cap. We'll be able to engulf other teams and really scavenge together. But Josh, then I pull up, 2025 payrolls, and the Rockies are right there. I mean, the estimated payroll compared to the rest of the league, they're, where are we here? Middle of the pack. So, I mean, bottom middle of the pack, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams beneath us. But still, how can you have a historically bad season on pace for the worst season ever, and you're not the bottom in terms of payroll? I just feel like baseball, if it's going to continue to run like a business and get the fans invested and involved as they need to be, there needs to be some sort of talk of like, how do we add parity to this league? How do we not allow, the Rockies to be as terrible, the White Sox is terrible for year after year after year, the Athletics terrible. How do we turn this around to make it a competitive league?
Yeah, and in many ways, you could argue that the way that things have gone in recent years with the really rich teams and just buying all of the talent at the deadline or in the offseason from these feeder teams, I think that's a good term to use. Is in response to Billy Beane's Moneyball strategy, which many of these lower tier franchises have adopted that. That has sort of become the small market baseball mindset. We're not going to spend a ton of money, but we're going to have our window where everything lines up. All of our young guys that are on very favorable contracts are playing at the best of their career, and we're going to get the best out of them. And we just need to get it out of 4 or 5 guys at the same time so we can really be a contender. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to just go through this cycle again. And that has clearly been, I mean, you've still seen some of those teams be able to compete, but you haven't seen many of them get over the hump and actually win big. There's just, those one-offs, like maybe Cleveland can get the Yankees in, like last year. Maybe they could get the Yankees in the ALCS, but they weren't going to win the World Series. Like it just wasn't going to happen. They could catch fire for one series that way, but 9 times out of 10 the Yankees beat them because they just are going to overpower teams. And then, they would have had the Dodgers to play. And that would have been, brutal. The Dodgers are, probably better than they are better than the Yankees at this point, but they play the same way. They do the same thing. I think that there needs to be some kind of competitive balance. The only way I see that happening is, you can't mandate some of these low spending, like poor teams to just spend more money. I think you have to have a salary cap. And I think I see parallels between the way that it works in baseball and the way that our capitalist economy works. And yes, in theory, we can talk all the time about like making billionaires pay their fair share, but who's going to make them?
Right.
And what happens if you try? Do you have enough, we'll just call it political capital. Do you have enough political capital as Rob Manfred and the higher ups in Major League Baseball to make that happen?
Right.
And I just wonder if they ever will. I just don't. I think if the rich teams want it this way, then that's how it's going to stay. And it's just going to be up to the small market teams to just figure it out and just try to figure out how to staple it together every 4 or 5 years. And the worst thing, and I'm talking to you specifically as a Rockies fan and your fan base, is how does it feel when you go through these cycles of rebuilding and you still never get anywhere? You still, you
the
have a
problem
guy
with
like
rebuilding, every trade that comes through is like, I'm giving them a C+ only because they made a deal. The 2 players they got in return aren't, the 2 pitchers we got for Ryan McMahon going to the Yankees really aren't movers. They haven't done anything. So it's different when you see rebuilding and you're going, man, look at these prospects coming down the pipe in AAA. Like, these are top guys. We don't have the staff or the management success or tenure that showed that any of our deals have moved the needle.
Right.
Even the big players, the Mike Hamptons that we went after in the early 90s, never panned out. One of the worst ones was, can't even think of his name. I tried to erase it from my brain, but signing the guy from the Cubs who has not played.
Bryant. Yeah.
Yeah, Bryant. Chris Bryant. signing him from the Cubs, getting this big player, trying to get some momentum going in your fan base, and he is legitimately stealing millions of dollars from the Monforts right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, stepping back and realizing that the players are humans who can get hurt and, all these things happen. It's just unfortunate. But when it feels like that's what happens every time, and then making the comparison between two NL West teams, you look at the San Francisco Giants and the Colorado Rockies, in so many ways, they're the same. The Giants have just figured out a way to fall forward and win 3 World Series in the last 2 decades and still be competitive year in and year out. And obviously so much of that has to do with their management from the top down. They've just done a better job with that, but they haven't done, like, if you just look on paper and you just glance at what they've done versus what the Rockies have done, it's not that much different. They've just been a little bit better in a lot of areas, and that has
that's
made
what a little bit better
difference.
And they've played to their strengths for their ballpark. That ballpark holds a lot of balls. They played them a Covey Cove and where their strengths are. I kind of want to see, like, Rockies, what do you have to lose? Go get a home run hitter at every position. Let's win every game 26-24. Like, forget pitching. Stop with the pitching. Let's just hit bombs.
Let's
be the Savannah Bananas.
Hey, position player, you're going to pitch today. Like, it's your day off. You're just going to pitch.
That
and
might
you're
be
just
the
going to
play,
serve.
Josh.
You're
I'm
just going
telling
to
you.
serve it up. Yeah. Yeah.
These ball players they struggle hitting the 50-mile-per-hour ball. So maybe that's it. Stop trying to throw heat and changeups. Don't let a hanging curve.
Let's
go for it.
Pitch.
Let's go for it. Who cares?
Yeah,
underhand it. Let's go back to basketball where we bring back the underhand free throw. Underhand it, lob it up, see if they can hit it. We know we're going to hang 8 on you in the next half inning. So bring it on.
I just I mean, I think you're right. There's you could make dramatic changes, and this does happen. It happens to other teams too, where you do all the right stuff and then a linchpin of your franchise or of your team gets hurt and is out for the year.
Yep.
And then sometimes what happens when you see that is another guy gets an opportunity, gets called up from AAA or AA, and in 3 seasons, you don't even remember who he replaced because he's your star, right? Like, and you look at, like, again with Cleveland, Stephen Kwan, no fanfare when he came up. He was like a 6th round pick, I think. He, one of those guys that doesn't have a lot of, like, just pure athleticism. He just does a lot of things really well, a lot of little things. He has great fundamentals, but not the kind of guy that scouts were looking at and saying, this is a premier talent that we're going to rate. He was never a top 100 player prospect wise. I think he peaked at like 6th or 9th within the Cleveland system. And he came to camp, made the club out of spring training, and then the rest was history. Jose Ramirez, a signee out of the Dominican Republic who was never highly touted because he's 5'9", 5'10", and yeah, I mean, he does a lot of things pretty okay. At least at one point he did. But the thing that scouts frequently miss is when a player or an athlete has just that X factor, that talent, that thing that is just intangible. And then you just don't see it until they get on the big stage. And I mean, I can remember when Jose Ramirez first came up and it was like, oh, this is just a spot filler kind of guy. We just, need him to play. He can play multiple positions. So kind of a utility guy. And then he's going to end up, when it's all said and done, because he's probably going to play in Cleveland his whole career, he's going to be the best Cleveland Guardian that has ever played. And that's just it.
Right.
We can't ever hit a home run with a number 1 pick, it seems like. We have to rely on these no-name guys coming up and becoming stars. And I think that's what's hard, because it's very hard to predict when year in, year out, you're missing with your 1st round pick. And you're getting guys that maybe they make the big leagues and maybe they have a good start, but then they get hurt and then they're never the same. Or, they come up and, you thought this was a 5-tool guy and it turns out at the major league level, he's a 3-tool guy.
Right.
Great defender, great arm, can't bat 200, and that's the frustration. The Yankees, the Dodgers, they just get more cracks than we do.
Yep. 100%. Let's go, Matt Holliday's kid. Let's hope he shows up for the Rockies. 'Cause that's about our only hope right now. We don't have much else going for us.
If he's at the level of his older brother, he's a solid player. But you never know. I would say your hope rests in this. The older Holiday is a solid player. He's batting leadoff for a team that is floundering. And he's a solid defender. He's got good speed. He's got some power. He's a good player, solid player. Usually, if you've got two brothers like that, only one of them is going to be, at most, one of them is going to be elite.
Right.
You look at Jackson Churio, for example. He's got 7 brothers that are minor league baseball players. Not 7, but Jason Churio, who is in the Guardian system, is, our second highest rated outfield prospect right now. But there's no way he's going to be Jackson Churio's level. He's not. Look at Ronald Acuna Jr. Well, there's Luis Angel Acuna playing for the Mets, who is in trade talks right now with the White Sox and various other teams. He's an okay player. He's a big leaguer. That's, pretty incredible to see, 2 guys from the same family that become big leaguers, but he's never going to be at that level. He doesn't have all of the tools that Ronald has, So that's the hope for you guys, is that Ethan Holiday is the one that is the elite player. And it remains to be seen. He's only 18, 19 years old. You're probably not even going to sniff him at the big league level until he's at least 20, maybe 21, 22, more likely.
Also, just stoked to see, is he going to be in pinstripes or Red Sox uniform in the next 5 to 6 years? So.
Right.
Things to look forward to.
Yeah. After his rookie contract is up, where is he going? And who are we getting back for him? Yeah, that's the bummer. And, you look at Cleveland, and really, we don't have any business having Jose Ramirez. The only reason we do is because he wanted to stay. He turned down more money to stay in Cleveland. That's not typical at all. Almost every player is going to take the money and go play for a contender. And, you can't blame him. If it was you, you'd probably do the same thing.
Not me, Josh. I came up with a book that my parents got me that said, no, I'll play for free. I play for the love of the game. That's what I'm here for.
I would have played for food money.
Always reminds me of the good old replacements. You know how much insurance is on a Ferrari?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Consider.
Keanu Reeves. Oh, some good sports movies. Speaking of sports movies and TV, we can finish up the show on this topic now that we are going to transition out of the utter depression of the MLB trade deadline when your team is not very good. So 2 things. 1, did you see the new Happy Gilmore? And
yes.
What did you think? And 2, have you watched on Apple TV Stick?
Perfect. Happy Gilmore 2. Did see it. Apple TV Stick. That is the I want to say Matthew McConaughey. It's not Matthew McConaughey. It's
Owen Wilson.
Owen
very
Wilson.
similar.
Same person.
Both Texans. Yeah.
Hey, I'm actually glad that I didn't remember Owen Wilson. I'll take that as a W.
Come on.
I haven't seen, but I did see something come across my phone yesterday that said it's the Ted Lasso replacement. So excited to dive into Stick. We've been doing some darker shows lately that we need some light in our life. But quickly going back to Happy Gilmore 2. I'm going to let you know that I am a big 90s movie fan. I'm talking, Big Daddy, Happy Gilmore, Black Sheep, Tommy Boy, if we're talking about those characters, those SNL characters that we grew up with, like the movies that bombed at the box office and then became cult favorites, and movies that you can probably walk into your living room right now and one of them is on FX or USA for your viewing pleasure during the day. The problem that I'm running into with Happy Gilmore 2 is, one, it was basically a rehash of one, right? Like a lot of just, callbacks to what one was, which appreciative. I'm not going to give any spoilers. That first 5 minutes was like, why did they do that? That was interesting. Bold strategy to do what they did in the first 5 minutes. And then I just did not like the last half hour, the theatricalness of them going up against the new golf. And maybe this is my first entry into, I'm a boomer and get off my lawn and don't mess with my classics. I thought the cameos were great. They were funny to be like, ha ha ha, like, look who's in this. That's awesome. They gave him a spot. The golfers that were actually in the movie, like, they weren't just cameos, they had full on lines and parts. But other than that, a solid 4 out of 10. The storyline was absolutely horrific. I thought the Chubbs son character was terrible. I thought the cameos, albeit there was a lot of them, and Adam Sandler is known for trying to get as many friends as possible, and anyone that basically called him, he threw into the movie. But it was a filler movie, man. Like it served no other purpose than, there is nothing else on. The All-Star game was last night. There's nothing on right now. There's no NFL news. There is, Chopped is over. It's reruns. Like legitimately nothing else on, and I'd still give it a solid 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say I pretty much echo that to a T. And I did go into it knowing full well the comedy that Adam Sandler has done since signing his Netflix deal. And I would say that's the line of demarcation for me.
Yep.
Has been, nah, this is lame. He's played some good serious roles. I mean, I thought Hustle was excellent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's made some other really good serious movies. I looked at the IMDb ratings on that one, or the whatchamacallit,
Rotten Tomatoes and all
the
that.
Rotten Tomatoes. I looked at that rating and I thought, because it was in the 60s, and I thought, oh, well, that actually bodes pretty well, because usually movies like that are more in the the teens and the 20s, even when we liked them.
Right.
So I was more optimistic going in, even though I knew deep down the comedy stuff that he had done recently was really not very good. And yeah, I would agree. I mean, I was disappointed with the way that the initial storyline went. I thought that there was a way that they could make it work and make it feel right. I didn't like the way that initial storyline, which set up the whole movie. I didn't like that at all. That was disappointing to me. And
and that could have been rushed, because they did say, due to Chubb's unfortunately passing, the
well,
original
but you have
script
to
was much more around Chubbs.
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep in mind. Yeah, you're right. I think that they replaced the Chubbs posthumous character with a different character, and still went with that same idea where there's somebody speaking to him from beyond the grave.
Right.
If it had been me, I would have just changed it. Just scrapped that, because I thought that character was too important, and it just kind of hurt, to see that happen. Especially if you're a fan of like Modern Family, and you really got to know her so well there.
Right.
It's a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but
if you haven't seen it by now, that's on you. I'm
yeah,
sure it's on
I mean,
all the socials.
I guess we should just say, I mean, if you don't have Netflix, sorry. I mean, most people do. And two, if you were the person that is going to be the target audience of that movie, you've already seen it. For sure. Exactly. I mean, I felt like I was a couple days late, because we watched it. It came out on like the 25th, and we watched it on, I think, the 27th. Yeah, the way that the movie just kind of went into this weird spiral at the end, it was like a weird spiral. It was like are you just sitting here like on the toilet, like just like thinking of like
It was
random
it was
stuff?
like a Captain Underpants finale.
Yeah, I mean, it was just
Like,
like
we're gonna have
it
as
was
much
just
wild things happen.
yeah, like it was like ridiculous for the sake of ridiculousness. I felt like, and
100%.
like the Haley Joel Osment character was like the twisty, like, oh yeah, we removed our ligament from our hip and blah blah. Like, come on, man. I mean, these guys are driving the ball like 500 plus yards. First of all, even Happy Gilmore would not have been able to compete with that. So that was unrealistic. But just yeah, it was just I was left feeling very unsatisfied by that and just kind of forced to move on. But I will say, Stick, as a 10 episode initial entry, which is set up for a season 2, I thought it was Owen Wilson's best work. His character was very endearing character. Mark Maron is a very good supporting character there. Timothy Oliphant kind of plays like the nemesis, and I just always like him and everything he's in. Um, and the comparisons to Ted Lasso, I think, are warranted. It's a little different kind of storyline. I would say it's like, and I have heard this. It's like if Shrinking was a sports show, and Shrinking, if you haven't seen that, is just outstanding show as well. But it just was really good. I mean, I kind of had low expectations for it because sometimes even Apple TV makes shows that are just like, yeah, it's okay. Like, I don't know if I would watch season 2 kind of thing. There were just multiple moments where like it was tearful, and then there were moments where it was like just laugh out loud, like hilarious. Yeah, outstanding. And then there was a cameo from Sean Astin's younger brother.
Amazing.
Or older brother. I forget if he's older or younger, but anyway, yeah, you'll see if you watch it. But it's just an excellent, like, and it's a pretty quick watch. There's 10 episodes, and those episodes are like 30-ish minutes long. So, 5 hours or so of watch time. And yeah, you won't regret it if you watch that. It definitely satisfied the need for the competitive, the sports, the Cinderella story kind of stuff that we love to watch in sports TV and movies. And it definitely did hit that Ted Lasso box for me. And then, of course, Ted Lasso's coming back for an unforeseen season here, which we'll see what that is. That'll be like, we'll watch that because you just, of course you will, right? But yeah,
it's that Office theory of like, don't mess this up.
Yeah, I mean,
you should have stopped after season 6.
You've heard from so many of the actors in the show, and including Jason Sudeikis, that it's like we had a funeral for the show, basically. How can we bring it back? Bringing it back cheapens what we've already accomplished, and I think that's true. But like with Happy Gilmore 2, I will watch it. Yep. And my expectations,
and money talks.
My expectations will be higher for this than they were for Happy Gilmore.
100%. Yeah, I think Apple TV is crushing it coming down the pipeline here. Shrinking. If you haven't seen Shrinking, you got to cuddle up with the significant other. And
so good. It's just so good. Like Harrison Ford in Shrinking. I mean, I don't want to, with the legendary career that he's had, I don't want to say his best work, but I will say this about it: it is his most relatable work. Because
most relatable, and he's not pretending to be someone else. He doesn't.
Correct. He's just being himself, except he's a psychiatrist.
Right.
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 So I love his character in that show. There's so many great characters. It's acted and written beautifully. The different things that you can just take from it, like, I mean, for those of us, and I don't see a therapist. Shows like that are like therapy for me because they really make you think. And yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed and look forward to more. And
you feel like you're a part of them, right? Like Martin
absolutely.
Short and Steve Martin and all their shows, like they have to take over. And it works for Only Murders in the Building because they all have that type. But any other movie or show, you just feel like, okay, those two are taking over. This show, I feel like I'm living it with them. The
Yeah,
good parts, the
absolutely.
sad parts, the funny parts, it's incredible and I am very excited for that to come out. Like you said, high hopes for Ted Lasso 2, and then my goodness, Stranger Things. They have
Yeah,
some.
well,
Are they
they've
gonna
really
blow
set
this? Like
they've really I have a feeling that they're gonna fumble on the 1 yard line
land the
with
plane?
Stranger Things. I just have a
I don't
feeling
know.
because they've set this up as, you know, each episode is a full length movie, and like, first of all, who has time to watch all of it? Holy smokes! But we will watch it, but it will take us a while. Like, we're really only good for maybe an hour to 2 hours of TV per day at the most, if that.
Right.
So it will take us a good probably 2 weeks to get through that at least.
Wow.
But yeah, I just have a feeling. I have a feeling that that they're gonna, you know,
Game of Thrones burned us all. But
yeah,
on that note, I got to go set the timer for Stick here.
yeah, yeah. No, you'll love it. You'll love that show. Yeah, it's got something for everybody. The wife did not watch it with me, but I do think that she would have liked it. My mom loved it. Um, so yeah, it's just good. And Owen Wilson. You know, like with the Harrison Ford character in Shrinking, it's a relatable, very flawed character who has it's just this redemption story for him, but then it's also somehow about the other characters. And that, I mean, on that note, that's what I feel like the best shows today have done is they've gone enough in depth on the supporting characters so that there's more for any average audience member to connect to. So maybe you can't relate to the main guy, but you like this guy so much that you're gonna watch the show. And
Right.
and I think the best shows of today have done that. Not just with getting, you know, big name talent, like, you know, the Apple TVs are casting 3 A-list actors or actresses in every show that they make now. So that's a huge draw. But anyway, I think that has, with that, we've kind of run our course, and we stayed pretty consistent today to really just a few different topics. That's the first time we've ever done that. I'm proud of us for that. Hopefully you'll enjoy this edition of You're Blocking the TV, and we will be back next time with something zany and fun and hopefully very informative for you. Thanks for tuning in.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.